Lon Fuller, a noted jurist who died in 1978, distinguished between the morality of aspiration and the morality of duty. Fuller explains that the morality of aspiration shows a close affinity with aesthetics as a means for making the best use of our short lives. Norsey's notion of divine or pure justice also has an important aesthetic and moral dimension that resonates with Fuller's notion of the morality of aspiration and goes far beyond narrow notions of justice. Fuller regards the morality of aspiration as the fullest realization of human powers. People might fail to realize their fullest capabilities, but this is a failure of shortcoming, he argues, not of wrongdoing. Both Fuller and Norsey also see morality as the basis for law and justice. Norsey's notion of justice and balance parallels Fuller's argument, except that Norsey, of course, invokes not only a higher morality, but divine determination. Fuller's morality starts at the top of human achievement. His morality duty starts at the bottom, laying down the basic rules without which a modern society is impossible. Fuller's morality of duty is prescriptive, much like Norsey's specific invocations of prescribed punishments in the Sharia. Most proponents of modernization theory have generally assumed that modernity is a sharp break with the traditional past. In Turkey, as in the Middle East, political reformers exaggerated this great divide, so that only in the last few decades, for example, have Turkish social historians and social scientists acknowledged that modernity, both political and social, is a much more nuanced and complex process than explained by sudden tectonic political shifts, such as the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and the birth of the Turkish Republic. In terms of social reforms and religious understandings, both Turkish and foreign scholars today recognize many incremental innovations, not necessarily just the top-down ones mandated by state authorities, were underway long before the Republican era in fields such as marriage, family, and fertility patterns. A strong implicit sense of religion, of religious modernity remains central to Turkish public life and social institutions, and this is at the same time compatible with the secular nature of state institutions and mainstream political expression. Open societies claim to respect religion and religious worship. At the same time, however, in the words of the late philosopher Richard Rorty, religion usually functions as a conversation stopper outside of circles of believers. Rorty's observation points to why the career and writings of Said Nursi have proved such a challenge to conventional ideas of modernity. Modernity is normally seen as the enlargement of human freedoms and an enhancement of the range of choices as people began to take care of themselves, which of course is exactly what Nursi encouraged people to do. The modern era has intensified the pace of interaction among believers in different religious traditions. The Risale-i Nur encourages reflection on core ideas of morality and justice without prescribing particular context-specific directives. At the same time, its advocacy of multiple systems of learning, including those derived from the colonial experience, encouraged the elaboration of habits of thought and practice that facilitates introducing new elements and practices. For Nursi, it's not sufficient simply to be Muslim and to follow Muslim practices. One must reflect upon and articulate one's faith in practice. Pluralism and a respect for complementary values of justice and ethical conduct is of necessity constantly negotiated between universal and local ethical values. Thus, the teachings of Nursi readily function to explain in accordance with the understanding of the age, as Nursi said, the truths of the Quran. I emphasize the understanding of the age, indicating his engagement with practical reason and specific historical circumstances. Nursi's writings represent the Islamic tradition as enjoining a continuous dialogue about meaning, a dialogue that explicitly enjoins tolerance among Muslims and between Muslim and other religious traditions. Religious intellectuals such as Nursi may claim strong links with the past, but their practice in the present conveys the idea of the modern at its best, dissolving the artificial barrier between traditional and modern. Bridging this gap has particularly challenged Turkish intellectuals, as the career of my good friend and colleague Sharif Mardin suggests. Soon after I met Mardin in the early 1970s, and I was a young, fresh doctoral student, and he was already, of course, a full professor, he shared with me the first of many, many drafts of what eventually became his landmark book, Religion and Social Change in Modern Turkey, his study of the life and thought of Said Nursi. On several occasions over the span of nearly 20 years, Mardin told me that this book was the most difficult one he ever had to write. He explained that Nursi's writings and career were impossible to understand through the conventional lens of modernization theory, such as he learned it at Stanford University in the late 40s and thereafter in the United States also. And the popularity of Nursi's work also contravened the tenets of Turkey's then prevailing secular Vulgate. In word and deed, Nursi showed how faith and modernity work together. If Nursi's point of departure was religious studies, that of Mardin was secular modernity. Both men, Nursi and in his academic way, Sharif Mardin, transcended conventional wisdom and practice in order to understand how the spiritual can be compatible with modern notions of responsibility, justice, and ethical pluralism based on critical reason. Washington.